All right. Greetings and welcome back once again. This is Amuna. I pray everybody is doing well. So let me tap in really quick. I just drove up, about to go tussle with this math homework. So I pray everybody's doing well. Like and subscribe and share and do all that lovely, great stuff we know to do. I just wanted to tap in really quick, as even though I'm not talking a lot, there's that time I'm observing for the purposes of solonomics, of course, but just observing how everything unfolds, observing human nature, man. Human nature is interesting. Know thyself. When we watch human nature, we watch how we move. Welcome to those who just joined us. If we're not learning, then guess what? This situation is something that can repeat itself and repeat itself and repeat itself. There's so many lessons to be learned. I'm about wisdom and extracting what we can. Definitely looking at the case as it unfolds, looking at how people are interacting, how people who are close to the person are either absorbing themselves of any guilt or distancing themselves, social distancing themselves from the situation. There's so many implications for being in and around somebody who has been accused of something, especially if it's something that is just as troubling and as heinous as what Polight is being accused of, which is basically in child endangerment, sexual assault on the child, or things of that nature. The upcoming case is said to be September the 15th, where people can hear more about what is happening. I think why it's so alarming for many people is that you say one thing and we're doing another thing. People are saying one thing, saying they're conscious, really they're subconscious, and they're manifesting another thing in their everyday lives. Hopefully you guys can hear me because the battery is low. So this is why I'm talking a little bit fast, because I already know it's going to go out. Um, so that's one of the issues that exists, right? Let me know if you could hear me in the chat. One of the issues that exist is just hustling awareness, hustling knowledge. And people do it all over, not just people know something all day long and don't do or practice what they know in their real life. I've pulled up to gas stations and seen nurses in their uniform smoking cigarettes. You know what I mean? Doctors doing things that are not necessarily good for him or them. So on one side, they went to school for pumpteen years. They know what this, that, and that could do to the body, but yet still, they still have habits that go against the things that they know. So this is not something that is, can only be contributed to the so-called conscious community. I call it subconscious. This is something that can be contributed to human nature. People know and don't do all the time. One of the issues or problems come in is that when people are in such a position that they present themselves as an authority or a leader, a thought leader on a certain subject matter, and people are now following them, they're encouraging people to following them. They are monetizing the fact that people are following them, and now they begin to consume the flock, so to say. They consume the flock through the teaching. So the flock is following because the thought is that you're actually doing what you're telling me you're doing, right? And so the person wants that perceived effect. Part of the issue, I said this before, with the flock is that we don't necessarily vet the people who we say we believe. Drop a comment, let me know if you guys can hear what I'm saying. Truthful perspective, what's going on. So we don't necessarily vet, especially in this so-called subconscious community. Like I said before in other videos, if this person speaks in a way that we like, if they look a kind of way that we like, then guess what? You follow them, right? Which is not the best thing. You do it in the church, you do it in different sides of religion, and we can see what happens is you put all your trust in man, and it becomes a problem. Right? The Torah says, cursed be the man who puts his trust in man. Be careful of how you put your trust in man, any man, woman, or child. Be careful of those type of things. So just watching the way it's unfolding, looking at how people, when they were benefiting, when they saw something within the person that their proximity to the person was beneficial, they were there, they were cheesing, they were smiling, they was, doing all of these things. And now when it's no longer beneficial, they back up. But in doing so, to identify the issue or identify the wrongdoing, is not also being done clearly. Like it's confusing. The waters, that's why I call it conscious confusion. The waters are being troubled because it's like people may be uncertain or unsure of how this person or this accusation may affect them in real life. And because if they're unsure of that, they're trying to take the heat. It's like that you know, you're shifting to the side because you're uncomfortable. So kind of what we're watching in a lot of these spaces, if you are paying attention to this particular story or you know, different stories, the Cuomo story, different stories, is that when people are close, if they didn't speak out, if they didn't let it be known that they knew about this thing and they are not in agreement, the longer they don't say something or the longer they remain quiet, it makes them look kind of guilty. Okay. The thing about this case is that the mother did go to the authorities, so it's something that we can watch in real time. There's so many times in recent times that this has happened, but because the people did not go to authorities, it has been swept under the rug. But in this instance, it's not being able to be swept under the rug because it's out in the open. Right. And that's one of the things that we have to remember, that even though the system is not wholly balanced, if there's no record of it, then we permit this person who has done a wrong, male or female, to continue to do the wrong because they're not being held accountable. What we're looking at is accountability, right? We're looking at accountability and what it looks like. A few months ago, we did accountability. I think we did accountability and responsibility. What we're looking at is someone being held accountable or being attempted to be held accountable for what they have done or what they are being accused of doing. And just for the record, violating children is not something that anyone should be doing or that anyone should be okay with someone doing. Now, people come up with all kinds of reasons, like we talked about on this channel before, as to why they do not tell, as to why they do not report, as to why they do whatever. But all you do is enable that person. You become an enabler to allow it to happen to someone else, somewhere else. So it is with the R. Kelly case that's coming out right now. When the first person that was on record was Aaliyah, for him having violated her in this way, because he was not brought to justice, because the situation was swept under the rug, he was able to do it countless times. Why? Because the people around enabled him by covering his dirty behavior so that he can then be in another space to continue this thing. This is what happens with abusers. This is what happens with people who violate other people. You have to have, to a certain degree, people who are complicit. And those people who are complicit do have a level of responsibility because they're complicit. Right? So this confusion that we see is that some people don't want to be held accountable for what they know, or they may not have been the one that committed the crime, but if they were privy to the information, if they did not do anything to prevent the crime, then they as well are culpable to a certain degree. And this is what we like to disseminate information. We like to, but now when it comes to saying, okay, this is all the stuff. This is why I always say, be careful. There's a lot of things I say I know, but you understand that when we proclaim things, whether or not you're doing it for YouTube likes, whether or not you're doing it for whatever, I'm the type of person who understands that you speaking out, but the words are going to come back. So all the people who run around talking about how much they understand spirituality, but then they don't practice things that show that you really understand spirituality. I'm befuddled, yo. I'm confused of what's going on. And the audience, this is why oftentimes I try to speak to we the people, because I consider me we the people. We the people don't understand spirituality either. Not to the degree that we need to understand. It's like I'm doing this math. I can't get off it. I understand math, but I have to go back now to understand the principles, the essence of it, because outside of the problem that they're giving me, if I can't grasp the whole thing, then if they move the goalposts on me, boom, I'm confused again. You know what I mean? So that's what I'm struggling with right now is this math, because I'm very conceptual, and you always hear me saying, okay, let me paint a picture, right? So I have to make it make sense. And right now, when they start messing around with the numbers, it ain't making sense. The math ain't mathing, y'all. I got to go do my work, but the math ain't mathing. I'll be like, what did I do wrong? Folks need to come through, support. Yeah, like and subscribe. That is not the world we are living in. The victim is always the one who takes the blame. I mean, to a large degree, that's sad, but it's true. The victim takes the blame, and we have to look at why does the victim take the blame. Usually, we're talking about a power dynamic. The person who has the power and the person who does not. The victim is the person who no longer has the power. The power was taken from that victim, right? Or the victim gave up their power based on coercion, or the victim was attacked, so it was taken from them. It was robbed from them. So the people usually like to side with, unfortunately, the person who they feel is empowered, either by money or status or standing or whatever it is that they value in the community. So in this particular community, because people value intelligence, they perceived intelligence, they value perceived stature. Oh, this person has, then they're going to side with the person that they think is going to garner them some uh kind of power vicariously by aligning themselves with this person. They also become empowered to a certain degree. So it's a whole power dynamic when we look at victims and perpetrators, and oftentimes why society leans towards the person who they feel is empowered. Because if you stand and you step apart and you align yourself with the victim, the perceived weak person, the perceived person who is not empowered, you are now a target. Because usually if the people are on the side of the perpetrator, that means if you step aside from the perpetrator, you become the target. And a lot of people are not built like that. To get justice is not always easy. You're going to have to go against the crowd. You're going to have to do a lot of things that it's going to make you uncomfortable. And because you're going to have to do that, you have to be the type of person who does not need approval from everybody. Because if you need approval from everybody, you're not going to want to upset the boat. So that's a kind of right now when we're looking at the split, when we're looking at who's on what side, and this is for any crime that we're seeing or what's going on, people can know the truth, but they don't have the chutzpah, okay, the cojones to side with the truth. Why? Because it takes a certain level of fire in you to side with the truth. This is just facts, right? So this is a conversation that we could have. I know this phone is about to go out. That's why I appreciate you sticking to what y'all said straight from y'all. Most people play with said, right. Most people play around, and you can see that. Why? Because playing around, I learned very early on that this channel could be bigger, but I don't play around. Because I have to weigh it out on the scales. Let me see, getting all of these people who are supporting a falsehood or rocking with people who are supporting the truth. When you don't play games, or you are not partial to the best of your ability, and you want to, shoot straight, a lot of people are not going to rock with that because you're not feeding their desire, right? You're not feeding their desire. But then what is it, to what end? Because if I have to violate universal law, if I have to lie, that's coming back to me. You know what I mean? That's not coming back. That may come back to the people I'm misleading, but all that stuff is going to come back to me. So I have to say, do I love myself? Okay, I think I do. So I'm not lying to you. For what? For views and clicks and likes and comments? Nah, bruh. It's not worth it. Some of the people, because they are unsure and unclear, some people will teach doctrines, they will teach biblical narratives. Why? To fit an agenda. And because more people are already on that side, all they do is scoop the people as soon as they come out of Christianity. This is why you see a lot of certain channels are huge. Why? Because they're just catching the babies as soon as and usually babies have similar questions. So they catch all the babies, and then they just move them over to their next side. You know what I mean? So I've studied this thing for a long time, but at the end of the day, it's not worth it. What's this madness? Somebody's over here trolling. I got to put some. Nah, we're not into no aborting any. You're tripping out, Yoruba. I had to give you the Bizy. I'm not into that. I don't promote killing any abortion. I don't promote. That's not what I'm promoting. People do what it is that they do. This conversation about divesting. Listen, if you think the grass is greener on the other side, go for it. You know what I mean? That's on you. But the reality is the grass is not greener. You're dealing with something that when you go over to the other side, you are bringing your brokenness with you, because wherever you go, there you shall be. You know what I mean? So you're not really escaping anything if you think that's what you're doing, if that's what you want to do. And that's the next thing. If that's what you want to do, why you got to come and try to yeast up everybody else to do it? Why don't you just go over there and do it and let us know how that worked out for you? In recent times, the conversation, I pay attention, when I can, when I'm driving on my commute. But in recent times, the what's her name, the pink pill lady, she divested with the European man, and they got into a whole debacle about the uses of the N word, and it caused a lot of issues and confusion. Why? Because you're not just dealing with the person, you're dealing with all of that comes with that person and their social economic standing and their group and their status in society. So there's some people who will lead you to believe that the answer is just jumping the fence. It's not, because it's going to have a whole new set of problems. There's no quick fix solution. Trust and believe. There is no quick fix. There's a part of you, even if you say you divest, there's a part of you that you have to leave behind. There's a part of you that oftentimes is not going to be able to be present, or is going to be underdeveloped or undernourished. Why? Because they can't relate. You understand? It's the same issue that sometimes mixed biracial children have, because one side, if they grew up with one side of their family, then they can't always relate to the other side, being whatever other nationality they may be. Why? Because it's not being fed on the side that they're at. So to think that you're going to just jump the fence and it's going to be okay, understand you're going to have to sacrifice and give up some things. And if that's what you're willing to do, let us know how that works out for you. Let us know how that works out for you. But there's some people, many people, who are trying to get people to do stuff that they themselves are not successful at doing. Have not been successful at doing. And this is why I try to, for me personally, I share what I'm either going through, what I've done, or what I've found success in doing. So that makes it more authentic, right? Because I can hype you up and be like, yeah, what you could do is, and I ain't never did it. So what's this? Just creating content for YouTube? This stuff, as we see, back to what we were talking about before, this stuff stays up here. I was watching one of the lawyer ladies. Please forgive me for my memory. Y'all already know I got too many equations in my mind. Although my memory was bad before the equations, so go figure that. But she was asking, I think Zion Lex was having a conversation with the lawyer, Esquire, somebody lady. Please forgive me, Esquire lady. I'm going to call her Esquire lady. Anyway, he was having a conversation. The conversation came up is if any of these videos that was produced by on Sonetta can be, any of the people from the videos can be subpoenaed. And she said, absolutely. Right? So it's okay when people are playing YouTube games, but when it becomes something real in real life, where your behavior may have contributed to some delinquency, then you're going to be held responsible to a certain point. You know what I mean? And people don't like that. So people start squirming. You see grown men squirming and squabbling and carrying on and doing the most instead of speaking to what it is. And it's causing confusion, all while trying to jockey for the hearts and minds of the people who are listening and paying attention. Come over here. No. Come over here. No. Look over there. So you're playing with the minds of the people, which is not the best thing to do. Right? It's not the best thing to do. There's a part in the Bible that talks about the shepherd that lead the sheep astray. It's not a good look. If the sheep or whatever people have been entrusted to follow you to where you claim, you're not supposed to be leading them astray. You're not supposed to be eating the sheep's food. You're not supposed to be fleecing the flock for your own benefit and edification. And the people are fleecing the flock. The so-called leaders are fleecing the flock, eating their food and trampling their food under your feet and thinking that it's going to be well with you. It's not going to be well. I'm on the line. Mm-hmm. Could we have a bagel? No, I'm coming. Tell her to put on the water. I'm coming. I'm on live. When they want to have a whole conversation with you. Anywho, peoples, this thing is about to go out. That's just my thoughts on a lot of confusion. Let me know what's your thoughts on what's going on here or anywhere else. There's a lot of confusion about the jab. I know I haven't talked a lot about that. You know, the poke. I heard somebody call it the juice. They got all kind of names. There's a lot of confusion about the vid over these last a year and a half. There's a lot of confusion about, you know, what's healthy and what's not healthy. It's conscious confusion. The more information that we get, the more information that's available, is the more waters are muddy. And it's because somebody somewhere feels that, for me, this is my theory, somebody somewhere benefits from the confusion, right? They benefit from the confusion. I'll tell y'all a story. I don't know if I told y'all this story before, but as it relates to confusion out in the wherever it is, right? In this case, it is in the medical community. And so back in the day, long time ago, there was a question of breast milk versus formula. And oftentimes when you have a young child, they're going to pull out, the pediatrician is going to pull out this formula chart, the growth chart. And you go there for your checkups and they're going to be putting little dots on their thing and being like, according to this, your child is in this percentage. According to this, your child is in that percentage. If your child is exclusively breastfed, that chart doesn't represent your child. So even in that space many moons ago, I challenged the pediatrician because I said, well, can I ask a question? Who makes that chart? She's like, huh? Looking at me like that. I said, let me see the chart. You look at the chart. You look at the footer on the chart. It says produced by Gerber. Gerber is a formula company. So this information that's causing confusion and angst and worry and all of these things in the uncertainty in the mind of the parents and the doctors who don't want to get sued and the parents who don't want to harm their children, is that you are giving this information, but you're not really looking at the source of the information. And the source of that particular information was coming from Gerber. It's like doing a study, but you know the study is slanted because the person on the other side of the study gets to benefit from the information. So the objective is not truth. The objective is to profit monetarily. Yeah? So when I brought that to her attention, I said, well, where is the growth chart for the exclusively breastfed child? It's like, who is she? You know what I mean? Who is this girl? I'm like, I need that chart. Because this chart does not represent my child, because my child does not formula. So we all know that formula fed babies carry weight very differently. They absorb the formula differently because of all of the things that are added to the formula, and they appear chunkier, or they appear fluffier, I like to call it, but it's some other things that are going on with them. I say all of that to say that the source of the information is very important, and people who stand to benefit from confusing the masses put other things in the pot so that we won't look and know what's what and who is who. And that is my thoughts on conscious confusion. So much information coming at us all at the same time. People just say, forget it. But we can't forget that this particular case started off because a young girl who right now is somewhere watching, she could be somewhere. Think about this. Somewhere there is a 14-year-old girl who is the subject and the catalyst for much of the conversation that is happening. I have a young daughter, 14 what is going on? How is this 14-year-old girl coping with what has happened to her? Coping with everybody talking, coping with the way people are relating to the case. That's going to be somebody's mother in the future, most high willing, somebody's wife, that's somebody's daughter. Like, sometimes we lose sight of this, and then we get to, I got to mention it, we get to KS, and KS is dealing with the after effects, the grown people, and looking to all of this stuff happen to like the 14-year-old and the 13-year-old and the 12-year-old, and it's undealt with and it's unprocessed. And then you get to 20 and 30 and 35, and somebody's saying, what's your weight size? What's your dress size? Da. The man needs you to do this. The man needs you to do that. All in their mind, they're like, wait a minute, isn't this the same man who violated at another time? Is this the same man who did X, Y, and Z? So there's a disconnect between what people do to children and what you expect of people as adults. I think that bridge that needs to be bridged. You cannot disregard what happens to children and then want the adult form that has that broken child in them to do right by you. It don't work like that. Not in any planet that I come from. It don't work like that. Because this is when the adults have the opportunity to do right by these children and you don't. And then you're like, oh my goodness, I don't know what's wrong with such and such. They tripping. You failed them, maybe? Maybe you failed them? We don't understand. I think to a certain degree, because we struggle oftentimes as people to raise other souls, we overlook that whatever happens in childhood could jack you up for many years to come. It may seem small to you as an adult, but as a child who does not have the tools to process, they don't have the wherewithal. They don't have the, if the adults around them do not hold their hand and show them the way through. And even if they do that, there's still scars that they have to live with on the other side of this conversation. And a lot of what we see is a failure as the adults to meet the needs, emotional, mental, spiritual needs of children. That's my observation. Because most times you'll hear, I did everything. I gave you food, clothes, and shelter. That's not everything. That's the beginning. That's not everything, bruh. How is that everything? Food, clothes, and shelter is the beginning of what needs to be to put into growing a healthy adult. The mosquitoes are coming out, y'all. Mosquitoes are coming out. Right? That's the beginning. That's not everything. So it's funny because I was talking to my daughter today because I'm consciously aware and I didn't start having children till later on. I understand that in different times, there's different things that you need to put into that soil, into that soul, right? It's just like planting a plant. At different times, you need to put different things in. And from 0 to 7, I've said this before, I'll say it again. From 0 to 7, that 7-year block, that child needs to feel safe. That child needs to feel protected. That child needs to feel like their needs are met, that their caregiver is present. They need to know that they are not alone. They can trust their environment. They can trust their caregivers. If they cannot, you will create an unstable individual who's going to have to look for other ways to meet their needs, because we all come here with needs. Our first reaction when we're born is to cry out because, look, we're vulnerable. So we need to know that somebody's going to comfort us. This is why usually when you pick up the newborn and you comfort the newborn or you meet the needs of them being hungry, then they will go to sleep. Right? They'll just chill out. People often ask, how did you get your children? I'm not just talking. This is the part I usually don't talk about on YouTube, but I guess for the next 21% of my battery, I'll talk a little bit about this. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to share. Wait a minute. I don't even see my chat. What was I going to say? Oh, when my children were babies, I never gave them pacifiers. I've said this before. I don't believe in pacifiers. Because what does a pacifier do? It pacifies you. From what? I need to know what you need. Because my thing is, I'm teaching that soul that once your needs are met, you should be able to learn how to be good. Okay, so when they were young, I didn't play the pacifier game. Some people like put the pacifier in the mouth. This is what they're doing right now in the conscious confusion. Oh, somebody's crying, put a pacifier in their mouth. Because this is how you train people. Oh, you feeling uncomfort? Put the pacifier in their mouth. How do you know what they're upset about? How do you know what's happening? How do you know if they're hungry or if they're wet or if they need to bathe or if they're hot or if they just need some comfort? How do you know if you're always putting a pacifier in their mouth? You don't. So, and parents who are pacifier parents, I'm going to call them pacifier parents, eventually become the same people who want to pacify all issues that come up in life, because a baby's cry is alarming. A baby's cry makes us uncomfortable, right? Because it breaks our silence and it interrupts the norm. It's telling us that something is wrong. Adults cry or an adolescent's cry does the same thing. So if we want to know what's going on into the conscious confusion community, is that somebody is crying out and it's making us uncomfortable. So you look for something to pacify it. the same way in which you did when the child was young. But if you, as a parent, were present and you say, hey, this child is crying. I just fed you, so I know you're not hungry. I just bathed you, so I know you're not dirty. Well, maybe you got a burp. Sometimes the child is going, because you just fed them, but they didn't have the opportunity to burp, and they don't have the ability to get themselves in a position for that gas to come up. And it's something as simple as picking the child up, tapping them on the back 2 seconds, and they go, bleh, and they done. So you never know what the person is crying about until you are in tune with that soul to find out what the issue is. But a lot of us don't want to do that. And so we see that is what's happening oftentimes right now. That somebody's saying, hey, they're crying. Somebody did something. They're crying. And you're like, uh-oh, I'm feeling uncomfortable. You know what I mean? So I don't want to hear that. Here, hold this. Let's look over there. Some people, the child is uncomfortable. You over there shaking rattles in their face. You're agitating them more. They don't want to rattle. They want you to attend to them. Why are you distracting them? Here, take your bottle. I don't want the bottle. Right. Right. So, yeah, that's my analogy for the day. What time is it? It's 8 o'clock. So I'm gonna go, but that's my thoughts on the conscious confusion. It's all a play. It's all showing us what's inside of us, who people are, what they're really made of, and how we can be mistaken by conversation that excites us. We mistake that for integrity. That doesn't mean somebody has integrity because they know they got a good memory. Memory does not equal integrity, bruh. That's my new thing. I've been watching too many of y'all on YouTube. But just like, why do you keep saying bruh? Bruh. Integrity does not equal memory. Ooh, that person could remember a lot of stuff. They got a lot of integrity. Nah, they just got a good memory. You know what I mean? Truthful perspective said pacify equate to catering to itching ears. Yeah, you pacify. You speak unto me smooth things. You pacify the people by telling them what they want to hear. Because if you tell them what they don't want to hear, they're labeled to do what? They're going to cry. They're going to beast. They're going to bang on you in the comment section. You know what I mean? So when you pacify them, I'm not into pacifying. I don't pacify children. I don't pacify adults. Like, I need to know what the problem is. You know what I mean? Because that's the only way in my world that it can get fixed. Sometimes everybody be like, yo, Mooney, you be like, if I see a problem, I need to go look for a solution. Because I don't like complaining. I don't like talking just to talk. I don't. You know what I mean? So that's how my mind works. Like, okay, this is a problem. How do we fix this? Some people like, this is a problem. How do we make it go away? And then so you have to really see how people move and what's their highest priority. That's going to determine how they go about doing whatever they're doing. Nyasha says, when can we talk about older women abusing younger? We'll have to talk about that at another time, Nasha, as this algebraic questions. Yo, why do they have so many formulas? We'll have to talk about that another time, sis, because I'm going to try to get in like 2 hours off these formulas. Why do they have so many formulas? Father, help us to overcome. I'm like, yo, y'all got a formula for everything. It's a lot. That's another thing, y'all. If y'all breastfeeding out there, remember to take your vitamins because they do say after a while breastfeeding, it can mess with your memory. I mean, it's been many years, but my memory is kind of, I'll be like, what I was going to do again? Anywho, we could talk about that at another time. With that said, leave your comments and thoughts in the box below. We're currently at 19% on the phone. It's about to go kaputzi. Everybody have a blessed day. You know what I mean? Do right. Love yourself. Love your family. Clean up your messes. You know what I mean? And if people are alive, your mother, your father, your sisters, your brother, if you can, because some of that stuff is beyond help. You know what I mean? But if you can, just clear up your karmic ties and your karmic debts, man. Clear them up. Untangle that stuff. Because guess what? Let's say if you don't believe in reincarnation, but you do get reincarnated and you don't clear up these karmic debts, guess who you going to be seeing again? These jokers. Clear your karmic debts up, man. Be right. All right. With that said, everybody have a blessed day or night, wherever you at.